Welcome to Social Situation, episode 15. Today we have an exciting guest from the world of social entrepreneurship who helps connect underrepresented food entrepreneurs with real economic opportunity. Lauren Silverstein of Rising Kitchens. Erin, welcome back to the show. It's really good to see you again. Another episode together. What have you been up to since we were together last?
Thanks, Trevor. It's so great to see you. I always love our recording days. I cannot believe this is episode 15. It's wild. It feels like just yesterday you were pitching me on the idea of starting a podcast, and here we are, which is so exciting. Still figuring it out as we go, but it's been just such a wonderful journey being able to bring these amazing social impact leaders to our networks and beyond, and be able to showcase the really impactful work they're doing. So grateful to be on this journey with you. Yeah, a lot has been going on. I can't believe we're almost in summer here, which is wild. I went swimming yesterday. That was fun. I'm trying to take advantage of the slightly warmer weather we're having here in Los Angeles. You would think it's always warm, but the part of LA where we live is actually doesn't get super, super hot in the summer. So taking advantage of any opportunity I have to be outside, take walks, just be in the fresh air. I took a Zoom call outside a couple days ago, and I realized I need to do that more. I actually did a LinkedIn post a few days ago where I was at a coffee shop and I was talking about how just a slight change in where we work from can have such a major impact on our productivity, on our kind of peace of mind, on our perspective. And so for me, I'm realizing, especially with the warmer weather, if I just take a walk, go work from somewhere else, just switch it up every once in a while, it really helps me to stay motivated. And especially, I'm sure you can appreciate, when you're a solopreneur or working with a small team, when you're virtual a lot of the time, like needing to be around other people, even if they're not people that you are directly working with. So yeah, I've just been trying to get out more, appreciate, the outdoors and nature, which I always do, but especially because it's warmer, and just switch up my work environment. Yeah. So what have you been up to, Trevor? It's so good to see you as always.
Yeah, we had a really good long weekend. My partner Tristan and I, we went and visited some friends over on Vancouver Island, where yeah, we got to just rest up and kick back and get away from our screens for a bit. It was our friend's birthday, and so we had a party at their place. We played board games. We like made food together and ate and caught up and shared stories. So it was really nice. It was a really nice experience, and I think just so needed for my energy levels and to refresh and yeah, get away from all of the work and all the things going on in the world. So definitely feeling very good. Feeling that change in seasons. I think yes, the warmer weather is definitely and more sunshine. I think is also a
Mhm.
big part of it too. Just the days being longer helps so much as well with the mood and everything else. So yeah, that's kind of what we've been up to more recently. Work and business, is always go, 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 but exciting and lots of things that are keeping me motivated as well. So yeah,
I
lots
love
going
that.
on.
Yeah, I'm so glad you had a good holiday, good day off. I think it's so important to take time away from our screens and to relax with the people we love the most, and to surround ourselves with friends and family and all the good things. I feel like especially in these kind of, tumultuous times we're in, it's the little things that are the big things, right? So kicking back with friends and just enjoying the fresh air and having some good food. That's what it's all about. And that's a reminder for everyone listening, take a break when you can, even if it's a couple of minutes, even if you're walking around the block, if that's all you're able to do, take that walk around the block. It will do wonders for you, I promise. So, Trevor, I am so excited to have Lauren here with us today. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back for our interview with Lauren Silverstein of Rising Kitchens. Looking to make an impact, but not sure where to start? Elevate Social Impact, a purpose driven consulting and coaching practice, helps companies develop their CSR strategies and embed a culture of giving back into their brand. And they guide individuals looking for fulfilling careers in social impact. Whether you're wanting to grow your company's give back efforts or find values alignment and make a greater difference through your work, Elevate Social Impact is excited to equip you with the knowledge, resources, and tools that you need to get started. Check out elevatesocialimpact.com today to learn more. Welcome to Social Situation. We are thrilled to have Lauren Silverstein, founder and CEO of Rising Kitchens, with us today. Rising Kitchens is a platform that connects underrepresented food entrepreneurs, especially immigrants and women chefs, with real economic opportunity. We are so thrilled to have Lauren, and we are excited to hear more about this incredible social venture that she has started. With a background in social impact strategy and a deep belief in community, Lauren is building Rising Kitchens into a bridge between hidden talent and the institutions that need them. Lauren, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Of course. So we're going to jump right in. We have lots of questions. We're excited to hear more about you and your journey. So before we kind of dive deep, I'm wondering if you can kind of take us back and share a little bit with our audience about your impact origin story. How did you get started in this space? And have there been any standout or aha moments that you've had along the way?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Yeah, so I think that I've always wanted to be someone who wanted to have impact. I just even remember, even as a little girl, like, volunteering from the earliest ages was really important in my family as well. All the way up, through college and really working a lot with our local community, which was very under-resourced, involved in a lot of tutoring and translating. And it was probably around that time when I started to wonder, like, is there the possibility that sometimes, even when you're volunteering or trying to do good, it can go wrong, right? And you can end up like harming, totally like not intended, right? Instead of helping. And then the thought was, could I even be doing this, right? Like the exact opposite of what I was hoping to achieve. Is there a possibility I might be having that unintended effect? To the point where like, this really kept sort of like, percolating in my mind, that when I got to graduate school, I was writing my dissertation. I actually wrote it, about youth mentoring programs, titling it "Are Good Intentions Enough?" And a lot of people thought I was crazy. Like, what? A youth mentoring program? Like, how could that possibly go wrong? And it was a really, really interesting window for me into the research and into different studies that showed, there is the possibility that somebody could have really, really good intentions, and yet it could disservice instead of service. And so this has been a real common thread throughout my own career, whether I'm, working in mission-driven organizations and really helping them have the impact that they really do want to have, or creating my own companies and making sure that, our strategies really are aligned with the outcomes that we're hoping to seek, for ourselves and for the community that we're hoping to benefit.
That's incredible, Lauren. I mean, it just goes to show the type of leader that you are to be even thinking of these things. Am I doing more harm? What is the best way to approach these issues at hand? Obviously, I know you are so committed to community and working with others. So I just want to say thank you for the type of leadership that you, are having, the type of effect that you're having in this space. You're really showing us all how to do good work well. I think that there are a lot of well-intentioned ideas and organizations out there, but we need strong leadership that, folks that are approaching these hard questions and looking deeply internally to make the greatest impact. So just wanted to say thank you for
no, I really believe everybody wants to do good work, right? I don't believe there's anybody going like, oh, I really want to harm this community, or I really want to create this company that's, going to have negative effects, right? And so it's just about understanding, how are we really defining that success? What measures are we using to understand if we are in fact having that outcome, that impact that we want to achieve?
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that, Lauren, and I love your energy, and it's great to have it, here on the podcast with us. It's, I think, very inspiring for entrepreneurs in the food space who are looking to connect with business opportunities. And how do we start a business? Like, I'm really passionate about this thing, but like I maybe don't have the skills for like the business side of it. And so can you just tell me a little bit about like, where does Rising Kitchens come into helping those entrepreneurs, and what was your impetus for like getting started on that route?
Yeah, thanks. So, I really started just seeing an issue with supply and demand. So we have, I live in New Jersey, and just like many places, there are a lot of talented individuals here. So there is a ton of supply. Right now, I'm speaking specifically on, the culinary side. So just incredibly talented chefs, incredibly talented bakers, right? And we also have demand. There's plenty of people who enjoy really good food, or plenty of companies who want to treat their employees to great catering and great meals. And so, what I was seeing was that a lot of this talent wasn't actually making it to the marketplace. And this is where equity really comes in. And it has been a thread throughout my career, which is, why is that talent not making it to the marketplace? It's not because the talent isn't there. It's not because the ambition isn't there. Isn't it because the passion isn't there? Sometimes it's because there isn't enough, sufficient financial capital to be able to have a storefront, to be able to market your company. Maybe there isn't like the same social capital where you have networks where you can actually connect with this demand. And so Rising Kitchens really connects the dots. And sometimes impact can just be that simple, just about connecting the dots between supply and demand to make sure that those who have the talent can actually have the chance to reach the marketplace. And what I like to say, it's really a win-win. It's not just a one-way act of charity. It's that the customer side, the community, actually is really benefiting from accessing all this local talent that we have that otherwise they may not have even known about, again, as no fault of their own. And so just as dot connectors, we really see ourselves creating these win-win situations where you're helping talent turn into financial opportunity, and communities really become more cohesive and connected through accessing talent among, across the whole community, not just a select few.
That's fantastic. I mean, it definitely sounds like you are unlocking so many great opportunities, and you're just giving, these people who already have the talent and the communities that already want that talent, you're bridging the two and making this connection, which is so powerful. Connecting the dots is so powerful. And I'm curious, Lauren, can you take us back? Like, have you been a chef in your lifetime? Are you a foodie? Like, I'd love to hear where this idea came from, because I know a lot of our listeners too are like, oh, I want to start something. Maybe I don't have the idea, or maybe I have the idea, but I don't know how to start something, or maybe they have lots of ideas and they're trying to figure out which direction to go. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that, if you could share.
Yeah, thanks, Erin. I'm not a chef. I wish I was. I'm not. I do appreciate really good food. And I think I actually just mostly appreciate really amazing talent that people have. And so the best part for me has been meeting, these chefs and bakers who it's a craft, it's their craft that is just, it's just so inspiring for me to see that. And I feel that, also when I meet authors or artists or plumbers, just individuals who have this incredible talent, that I just love to celebrate that and make sure other people know about that talent. So I think my superpower really is in that dot connecting piece, and just making sure that this talent is becoming discovered by, all who would appreciate that talent. And so I think for me, really where it came in is I'm also a builder. So I love when there's an idea and building that idea and turning it into something, right, that's translating into that action and into bringing that equity into the spaces that I really care about bringing that equity. And so I think that's what I also bring to our Rising Kitchens is I may not have that talent in the culinary space for sure. They teach me so much. Where I can add value to them is, one, building a community for them. A lot of times, as you both know, Erin and Trevor, that it can feel a little bit lonely and isolating, even though there are other people doing the same thing that you're doing. And so building community and their own professional networks to help them develop as new entrepreneurs and as chefs and bakers. Many of them don't know other people in their same space that, are having the same issues. Like, how do I plate my, steak on a chafing dish at a buffet line to make sure it looks presentable and tastes good, right? There's other individuals who have been down that road before and can, be that kind of support for them. And then, so not just connecting them internally to professional networks, but externally to, networks of customers that they can access who they wouldn't necessarily access on their own. So many, other business accelerator programs are doing a lot of the professional development and the training and the building a business plan and all of that. Where Rising Kitchens adds, an additional value is we're saying we won't just help you position your business for success and provide that supportive community. We'll also help you try to get your business off the ground by connecting you to customers to give you that chance at a very low cost to you. So there isn't a huge investment for them because, as we know, when you're just starting out, sometimes, it's too risky to be able to take that chance on your talent, right? You can't afford to put everything into it because if it doesn't work out, which many times it doesn't, you could fall farther behind than you were before. And so we wanted to create a very, low barrier point of entry to be able to try to get your business off the ground and connect to customers.
I love that. I love how you provide those wraparound services. You're not just connecting these chefs to each other. You're not just connecting them to opportunities, but
Right.
you're providing all the support they need to really get their business up and running and to be successful. But also you're not creating such great barriers, to entry that folks are intimidated to even get started, or that they're
Right.
going to lose everything if they give it a
Right.
shot. So I think
Right.
that's fantastic. And Lauren, I know that you have both an academic background. I believe you have your PhD, and obviously you're a social entrepreneur, which we're talking about here today, which is an incredible, duo of talents and skills, and I'm sure perspectives. And I'd love to hear, kind of how that experience, how those different viewpoints or perspectives have shaped, what you're doing today with Rising Kitchens.
Thanks. Yeah, Erin, I love that question. I love just the appreciation of having sort of both pillars there, because that was really intentional. It's really important to me. So, as I said earlier, I was that person who was volunteering and tutoring and doing all of the things and realizing like, do I actually know what I'm doing? Like I know I have the passion and I know I want to help and I know I can be really friendly and nice, but like, do I actually know how to tutor? Right? Do I actually know what matters to being a mentor? Right? There must be something here. And it turns out there is. There's a whole body of literature. There's all this research on what goes into being an effective tutor or mentor, right? And I was like, I need to equip myself with that. If I actually want to have the effect that I want to have, I need to make sure that I'm not just grounding my practice in my instinct, right, or my passion, but I'm actually grounding it in evidence. There's such thing as evidence-based practice, right? And that's how I can really maximize the possibility that I'm having the impact I want to have. On the flip side, you also have individuals who are so grounded in research without having that experience in practice that sometimes it's hard to see, the connection between the two and work so much off the literature that you don't have that applied sense and you can't sort of bring that practice back to understanding how you're interpreting the literature. And so I always knew that I wanted to have one foot in each camp, both, very familiar and grounded in research that was informing my practice, but also using my practice to come back and inform the literature. And so that's what I try to do now. I continue to write, I continue to teach, and then also, of course, running Rising Kitchens is like my raising my little baby in terms of being in the social enterprise world.
That's awesome, Lauren. We have so many listeners who are considering going out on their own. They're entrepreneurs, they're creators, and maybe they're stuck at a certain point and they're trying to figure out, what do I do next, or how do I, truly get started or take the leap of faith that I need to in order to like, go all in on my idea.
Yeah.
So what advice would you have to someone who's going through that right now, thinking about starting out on their own, especially in the space that you're in?
Mm-hmm.
And what would be your advice for them really getting going?
Yeah. I think, and this might seem counterintuitive, but, whether I'm working with an individual or an organization who is really looking to have maximum impact, especially if it involves making a major shift or change, my first question or suggestion would really be, what's the ultimate impact you're trying to have? Let's start with the end in mind, right? What is the end in mind in terms of that ultimate impact? And then it can help inform how you get there. I think a lot of times we start with that, I just want to go out on my own, or I have this great idea, right? And so we start with the strategy side without actually defining what success looks like. And then it's unclear, exactly the metrics that matter in terms of understanding if that decision actually is yielding, the outcomes that we wanted. And so I think that would be my first suggestion. If you can get really clear on what it is, and maybe it's the outcome of the company, maybe it's a personal, fulfillment in terms of your own career outcome that you're looking to have. Maybe it's more of a lifestyle balance outcome that you're looking to have, but I'd get very clear first on what success looks like. And then you can back in on the most effective strategic way to get there.
I love that. And just to follow up on that thread, are there any items that you think are absolutely essential for somebody to have in place, or that are, absolute musts before starting an organization or starting a new venture?
Yeah, that's a great question, Trevor. After doing some real hard thinking, in terms of what it is that you're looking to do, I think community is essential. So I'm part of a coaching group that I couldn't live without. It's like I think, it's so important to have that support when you're in that ideating phase, but sometimes you have really hard days, and you're like, what am I doing? Or I made a huge mistake. And so finding that group that can hold space for you in a way that isn't judgmental as well, right? Because there are so many vulnerable moments. There's so many moments behind the scenes that don't look the same as the moments you're putting out in front of the world. And so finding your people has been so instrumental for me in terms of, I'm trying to be that source of support for all of our rising entrepreneurs. And I know that I need that support for me as well. And so I would say that's sort of on the community side. And then also really making sure that you're connecting with people who have done something similar before. I mean, I've learned, I'm not trying to pretend the first person to start a social enterprise or to connect, talent with customers. And so really identifying where these peers are in the space has been also really, really helpful to me. Not just, again, in terms of like inspiring, but very, very tactical in terms of like, what are some key learnings here? Let me learn from you. Let me stand on the shoulders of those who have done it before me instead of trying to, pave the road myself.
I love that. Community is so powerful. We talk about that all the time here on the podcast.
Yeah.
And, it's just like every doctor needs a doctor. Every therapist needs a therapist. We all need, even though we're trying to run our own ventures, we need other people who are doing that to bounce ideas off. And especially when you're at it alone or when you're part of a small team, we need those thought partners, those cheerleaders, those people to kind of gut check our ideas or just kind of share what's worked for them and what hasn't worked. So I'm so glad you found that great community. And I love that you're talking to peers in this space. Trevor and I are always talking about how the impact space is not competitive, right? Like we all are in it for the same reasons.
Right.
We all want to make an impact. The way we can make greater impact is if we get along and work together and learn from one another. So I'm really glad to hear that's been, a valuable experience for you.
Yeah.
And I want to kind of switch gears a little bit. I know that when running a social venture, there's a lot of thought around obviously the change you want to make, the impact you want to have. And I'd love, Lauren, if you could share a little bit about how Rising Kitchens thinks about and prioritizes measurement and evaluation in your work.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that goes back to the very beginning of what I was saying in terms of, really defining the success that we want to have, getting very clear on that, because that has to come before you come up with your metrics that matter for you. So I always say, measuring what matters, right? And really coming up with what are you going to be looking for or watching for or measuring to know if you are reaching that level of success. And so we've come up, with metrics for us that really evidence and reflect the outcomes that we're trying to have. Of course, it has to do with revenue, but it also has to do with community building. It also has to do with knowledge building. And so I think one of the biggest, lessons that I have found, and one of those that I try to teach and implement in my own work, is also understanding measurement and evaluation success, not as binary. So, you're either successful or you're not. You either had an impact or you didn't. But really, it's along, a range or a continuum, right? How close are you to getting to that level of success you want to get to? And so for Rising Kitchens, we've really done that. We've really mapped out what different levels of success look like, not just saying, did we hit the mark or didn't we? And I find that as a really helpful construct when you're trying to come up with metrics for your company or your own even personal success.
I love that. I feel like a lot of times just in society in general, success is kind of defined as like one thing. You make some money or you don't, or you get to the CEO level or you don't. But like you said, it is a long game, especially when running a business. It's most certainly a long game, and every win is a win and every loss is an opportunity. And when everything is on your shoulders as the founder and CEO, it's important to take those wins and those successes, even if they're small or even if they're, a small kind of step in the long game of what overall success looks like for you. So
and
it's a really great way to think about it.
Yeah. And I think it's also like, when you come up with those metrics, making sure that they're reflecting all of your values as well, right? So a lot of times people come up with the metrics of like how much we've done, right? Whether it's how much money we've raised or how many people we've served, right? But there's different levels that you can get to, right? There's how much we've done. There's also how well have we done it, right? I mean, and that's so important in the impact space, which is, just because I served, 800 people this year, well, how well did I serve them, right? So that's the second level. And then the third level, which is even deeper and really getting to those levels of impact is anyone better off because of my work, right? So I think that's also something really important that I keep in mind, in my own organizations and companies, as well as when I work with others, which is to make sure that they have all three levels of those metrics so that they're looking at their work in the impact space, not just about quantifying it, because sometimes you can have a huge amount of impact when you're serving 5 people, right? And so to really look at that holistically and on different, depths, really can be informative to anybody running a company or anybody trying to understand and evaluate a company.
That's great. And I think so much of what we want to measure and evaluate comes from what we value and,
Yeah.
what matters to us, right? And so,
Yeah.
and we're in a purpose-driven space, and so like, there's that old saying, like, it's not personal, it's just business. Well, I think like in our space, it actually is deeply personal because
Yeah.
it's purposeful, right? And so as
Yeah.
a result of that, it's like there's much more vulnerability. There's high highs and low lows.
Yeah.
There's a requirement to have empathy and
Yeah.
understanding for those around you. Can you
Yeah.
talk about how you bring those values into your work and prioritize your purpose, in especially in those like tough moments when
Yeah.
like lost in the storm? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so many times we think we're on the same page with people, and whether it's among staff, whether it's among staff and their boards, people just, we use these generic terms like, we want to have impact. And we think we are defining impact in the same way, and we think we're on the same page. And then numbers will come out and people are like, well, one side is like, but that doesn't matter. Another side is like, well, but that's actually really good. And so where I think this is really healthy is when, I'll work with companies to have those conversations early on to really start defining success and what metrics actually reflect that. Because, as you said, Trevor, our values are all there. So how you're defining success for a company might be very different than how I'm defining it. And so I've been at these tables that get very, very heated actually, but it's so healthy because language matters. So when we're able to attach language to our success or to our outcomes, it can help put us on the same page so that when we are then, gathering our data, we're understanding in the same way. And we're all like, oh yes, that matters to all of us. One of the biggest things that I hear is, you can't measure what I do. And, because there's a lot of people who they're operating from such a values place, right? They're saying you can't measure that. And so a huge chunk of my work has been working with organizations to really help them understand how can we attach some success metrics to, what matters to you. And so you can actually see, your development and your progress.
Well, that's awesome. I think you're right on, being able to constantly say, are we on track? Are we meeting our values? Are we meeting our purpose? Are we mission
Right.
aligned? Like those are really important conversations. And I find that in so many companies, especially those that don't have purpose at their center, they're maybe only there to create profit for shareholders in the, most Chicago school way possible. But like, they're not having those conversations. There's this culture of silence because you
Yeah.
can't question things. You're expected to just be like endlessly loyal even when the Titanic is sinking, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I think there's some strength to actually the business side of this as well. Like being able to constantly evaluate and be
Yeah.
honest about where you're at can help to make the business better. Would you agree with that?
Yes, totally. I mean, I think that this applies in every sector. I think so many times, I think businesses believe and think that they're already doing this because they're, on the for-profit side, and nonprofits are the one who need help doing this, right? And so I've seen it both ways. I've seen nonprofits be super, super strong in measurement and evaluation, super lean in their operations. And I've, seen some companies who could definitely use, some assistance in terms of really putting some language to what success looks like for them and coming up with metrics beyond, their revenue numbers to really reflect the impact that the company is having and really also ensure that all the right voices are at the table.
Thank you, Lauren. I'm just, I'm thinking through everything you said because I'm like, yes, I needed this at so many points around my career, at so many organizations. I think there's like so many kind of like hard and fast like industry rules around like how to measure success. And sometimes, oftentimes we need to open the aperture of opportunities for how we consider what success looks like,
Right.
especially different types of social ventures and organizations. So I really appreciate how you're thinking about that for Rising Kitchens. And it is really dynamic and fluid, and there's not one size fits all for any organization. So I think it's just really wise, all that you shared. I want to take us back for a second. It's been really fascinating hearing about what you've built and your advice for other folks that are considering going out on their own, and kind of what to think about in terms of how you measure the impact that you're having in the short term and the long term. But as we look towards the future for a second here, I'd love if you could share with us the legacy that you want to leave with Rising Kitchens. I can tell that it's obviously such a passion of yours, and
Mm-hmm.
something that's meant a lot to you in your career. And then also the legacy that you hope to leave in terms of your own personal impact.
Yeah. I think that the answer could be similar for both. I am really passionate about opening doors, right? And opening doors where, they really deserve to be open, right? There is such incredible talent out there. There's such incredible passion and ambition. And for me, I just really believe at the fair shot, right? The fair shot that anyone can take on this talent and turning it into economic opportunity. And then also the community side, both in terms of Rising Kitchen's legacy and my own, is I really believe, all boats can rise. And when we can discover, each other that, lives, not so far away from us, but is a world away from us in terms of who their social networks are and where they buy their food and where they go get their coffee. If we can really bridge these communities, I think that the learning can be amazing. The appreciation can be for each other can be amazing. And I think we're all elevated and we all benefit. And so, I hope to do that through Rising Kitchens, through food. What better way to bring people together than food? We've seen that before. Is it just being an amazing connector and literally bringing people around the same table? And then also just, on the personal side too, is really my own network has grown, right? All of a sudden now I have, been introduced to all these incredible individuals that I did not know before. And now I've become part of my own personal network, and I can share my networks with them, and they're sharing their networks with me. And my own community has been expanded. And that's been really an amazing, inspiring thing for me as well.
That's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Lauren. I love how you talk about the fair shot. I think you are doing just that. You're giving so many folks opportunities. You're building such beautiful community. You're filling a need. You are kind of from all ends making such a great impact. And it sounds like it's obviously personally fulfilling for you. So a win-win all around. And
Right.
I'm excited. We're going to have to connect again separately, because I don't live in New Jersey, but I'm like wanting to take advantage of all these great eating
Well, that's
opportunities.
an
So when
amazing
I'm
thing,
back,
right? We
yeah,
could do
yeah,
Rising LA,
yeah,
we
I
could
love it.
do Rising Toronto, right? Rising Vancouver. I mean, there's talent everywhere. And that's what's so amazing to me, right? There's talent everywhere. There's demand everywhere. And how do we continue to connect these dots and really build an impact from such a simple strategy?
I love that. I love that. In another life, I would be a chef. I don't have the talent, but
Yeah.
I love it. I love food. And I love, what you said too about coming together around the table. I think that's such a beautiful bridge between cultures,
Right.
and different backgrounds, and just different people in general. I think the table is such a great space to build community, a great equalizer, and just such a really special and beautiful way to bring folks together in community. So I love, love, love what you're doing with Rising Kitchens.
Thank you.
Congratulations. If folks want to connect with you and learn more, what's the best way that they can find you?
Yeah, I would say definitely check out our website at www.risingkitchens.com. And we're also on Instagram at Rising Kitchens, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Lauren Silverstein.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lauren.
Thank you for having me. Love your podcast, and I'm thrilled and honored to be on it.
Well, thank you for joining us today, Lauren. It's our pleasure to have you on the podcast. So thanks for being here. And we will take a short break and be right back.
Thanks.
Thank you, Lauren.
$60 billion is being given by companies to nonprofits in 2024 to maximize regulatory benefits and manage reputation for employees and customers. Some companies are struggling. The rest are using Orgmatch because Orgmatch optimizes this process, saving time and money required in due diligence, research, and administration, while increasing confidence in the impact and investment earned. That's why community investment teams around the world are trusting Orgmatch to get the job done. Find out for yourself by going to orgmatch.com. That's ORGMATCH.com to get started now for free. Erin, welcome back. It is time for us to share what is on our minds. What have you been up to, thinking about, working on since we chatted last, and what did you want to share today?
Thanks, Trevor. Yeah, a lot is always on my mind. I feel like in this space, as you can appreciate, with so much changing every day. For me personally, I know I've talked about this here on the podcast before. As a newer mom, I think a lot about parenting and work and the social impact space and kind of how all of those areas come together. By the time this podcast is released, my event would have already happened most likely, but I decided to put together a gathering for moms that work in social impact because it's, I feel like we all, are looking for something, and there's so much out there, so many great events and communities to kind of tack onto. And I know there's a lot of great groups in the impact space, many of whom we're speaking to on this podcast. But for me, I was like, I want something specific to moms that are kind of going through figuring out their new identity and their work life, specifically in the impact sector. So I figured I'd do an informal gathering with other people that are at a similar stage or phase in life. By no means is it me, preaching or leading a talk or anything like that. I have no wisdom. It is more so creating a space where people can come together and connect and share their own experiences and gain encouragement, support, ideas, resources, connections from one another, so that we can feel more supported in our work, so that we can feel more aligned with others. I feel like, I'm not sure about you, Trevor, but the impact space, while it is close knit, it can also be at times really challenging to navigate or hard to find your people or figure out where you're going. And so when there are opportunities for us to come together and build community, I think it can be super powerful. So I'm excited to get some moms together, whether it's new moms, soon to be moms, seasoned moms, or people who are on their journey to become a mom that might not be a mom yet, that are all dedicated to impact, getting us together on a Zoom and kind of seeing what magic happens and kind of take it from there.
I love that. And, I'm going to a couple of conferences next week, and you're reminding me of the importance of those in-person connections and the opportunity to meet new people and to, pitch what you're working on and share and get feedback, and all that matters so much. And there does seem to have been a huge change after COVID, where that's not as easy to find maybe for people, especially people who
Mhm.
are in smaller communities outside of major urban centers, right? So
Yeah.
what you're doing is totally awesome, being able to connect more and more people to those opportunities when we need them right now. And I mean, we've talked a lot about people going through struggles amid changing in the job environment, where there's layoffs taking place, where there's obviously a changing economy, and people are trying to respond to that and figure out what their future looks like. And when
Mhm.
we're feeling isolated or unsure what to do, I think the best thing we can do is be with other people who can help point us in some directions to help us find our feet.
Yeah, absolutely. And something I've always loved about the impact sector is that it feels so collaborative and not competitive. I can't speak for other industries. I haven't worked in other industries, but I imagine this one in particular is much more collaborative and much more connected and community oriented than others, because how can we do this work on our own, right? We need others to work with us to create the greatest impact. Something we talk about a lot, here on the podcast. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful to be in community with amazing people and always be expanding that community. So thanks for the support. But Trevor, what's been on your mind recently?
Well, I've been reading the book Abundance by Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson, which talks about the future and what the future can be. I think in an optimistic way, in a way that talks about how we build for future generations, and while empowering this generation to create the infrastructure and the energy systems and everything that's going to be needed for that future economy. And yeah, it's really inspiring to think about how we can provide solutions at a time when I think a lot of people are like, oh, this is a really challenging time. I don't know what the economy is going to look like, or what the economic conditions are going to be. I don't, obviously we have a huge climate crisis. There's housing affordability crisis for a lot of young people that are trying to enter the market. And I think what I've found in this book is like, okay, well, here's some practical ways that we can actually deal with the challenges that we're facing, by, offering some policy changes and investments in public infrastructure and public services that are going to help lift people up. And so that book's been really inspiring for me about, being able to see the future and want to, spread the word and let people know that, like, it's okay to feel all of the uncertainty and anxieties of what's going on in the world. And also, there are pathways forward where we can tackle these problems in a way that is going to lift everybody up. And I
Mm.
think that's the response right now that I certainly need to hear, to keep myself motivated on the good path for sure.
I love that. I feel like we need hope these days. I feel like things are so uncertain and volatile, and we need to be aware of the realities of the world and not, you know, uh, stay away from what's happening. We need to be in tune with, yeah, what's happening in the news and around the world, but also from, keep that glimmer of hope, and keep pushing forward, and know that there are ways to make our world a better place, and that there are options and roads we can go down that will make things a lot better and look a lot more positive for the future. So I think that seems like it's really striking like a nice balance between the realities and the possibilities. So I really appreciate that. Everyone should check out that book. It sounds great. I'm going to do that myself. So thank you for the recommendation, Trevor.
Well, no, thank you, Erin. And again, that's Abundance by Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson. You can find it pretty much anywhere books are sold right now. It's a pretty big hit. It just came out in March of 2025. So definitely find it at your local bookstore, if you're able to do that. Well, Erin, this was a really fun episode as usual. Thanks for joining us. Social Situation is co-hosted by me, Trevor Loke, the amazing Erin Mogel, and presented by Elevate Social Impact and Orgmatch. Editing is by Tristan Thompson. You can catch new episodes on the second Thursday of each month, and visit socialsituationpodcast.com to learn more or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Erin, great to see you. We'll see you next time.
Bye, Trevor. Thanks, everyone.